What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Oscar's Cozy Corner, and welcome back to DreamSnap Diaries, the build series where I take you through my DreamSnap process from start to finish, giving you an insight into how I design my dream snaps, what I do to come up with them, all of the little bits that go into creating a dream snap, and hopefully some tips and tricks along the way as well. This week's theme is actually a really fun one. It is Dreamlight Knights, so we're thinking castles, we're thinking armor, we're thinking dragons, all of that fairy tale goodness in one place. The community is already putting together some incredible dream snaps. I've seen some amazing ones this week as is, so I think competition's going to be tough this week. Good job I have an idea. We're not going in totally blind. I can see the vision. I know what I want to create. So as always, we're going to jump straight into the game. We're going to go to a floating island, the Meadow floating island to be specific, and we're going to start our dream snap from scratch, and I will show you what we come up with. All right, so here we are up on the Meadow floating island. I have already prepped my outfit for this week. It is an outfit challenge, so I've gone with this Dreamlight armor. The tags aren't great for me this week. They are not really kind of like as high as they usually are, but that's okay. The hats one is difficult to hit anyway because it is just one. And then with the rest, the armor takes up, I think, 3 tags, but then I can't wear anything else with it. You can't wear shorts, skirt, any of that good stuff. So I'm working with what I've got. I think it'll be okay. I think the build will make up for it. I do see the build in my head. I know what I want to do. This outfit matches it perfectly. So instead of trying to hodgepodge a look together as I normally do and be like, that works, we'll tag max, I think this week I'm going on theme and I'm just going to cross my fingers and hope for the best. So you can see here that I'm already up on this floating island, a nice blank canvas for us as always. And then over here, I've got the little mood board, as I usually do, of stuff that I want to include in this build. Again, not much. I do try to keep my DreamSnap builds relatively simple, nothing too overcomplicated. I think it's nice to keep things a little bit pared back sometimes, even though the winners are often jam-packed full of incredible stuff. But for me, I just like doing a little bit more of a simple build and seeing kind of like how many items I can reduce my DreamSnap to really fit them in. So this is what we're going with. It's some sort of kind of like castle-esque ruins with some guards and some knights. We're sort of like at the entrance of it. That's the idea. And then we'll be getting the mossy castle out, which actually we can go ahead and do now. That's going to be our big centerpiece, the mossy castle. Well, the mossy castle, not the mansion that we got in the premium shop. I think it was a few weeks ago now. It was a little while ago. So that's going to be my centerpiece. That's going to be behind my character. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to place down some path right now, just so I've got that kind of like center point already fixed, and then I can work outwards from that. So I think I'm going to go with the Ancient's Path, and I'm going to make it 3 wide. So you can see I've already placed the castle down and it's slightly off center, but that's fine. Then I'm going to go all the way down, just connect that up. Now this path actually does match this castle pretty well in terms of color. The color scheme goes pretty nicely. It's got a nice match on it. And then with the castle walls, even though they're a little bit lighter, that's okay. We can make it work. It'll look good once we're done. So I'm going to place that down and I'm just going to run that underneath the castle door. And I'm going to bring that in a little bit and then I'm going to center it on that path. So now we've got our actual centerpiece, which makes building out from that a little bit easier. You've probably noticed by now in these DreamSnap builds, I tend to always do some sort of centerpiece and then the path coming out. That's just the way I like to do my builds, especially if I'm trying to do them not spirally. I don't want to go over and over. And when I break away from symmetry, sometimes it sends me to the moon and I am on the struggle bus all the way back. So when I like to do a build and I like to just get one done, symmetry is the way to go. And it's never failed me on Dream Snaps. I've always done relatively well. I've only hit kind of like low moonstone rankings really at the beginning, and then I had one anomaly with a Tiana Dream Snap that I didn't put a lot of effort into. So if you do want to kind of like head towards a stronger moonstone ranking, symmetry often does pretty well. So next up, I'm going to grab some castle walls. So I've got one with the window here, and then I've also got one of the turrets. And instead of having them just kind of like come out the sides, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find that spot where I can first put it in. So you can see just there, I'm going to just go one behind this little turret. And I'm actually just going to rotate it once because I kind of want it coming out this way at an angle. I might even I might even rotate it twice. So I'm going to rotate it twice and then place that there. What I've noticed with the castle walls is actually the turret piece on the 45-degree angle does clip. You can't actually get these pieces very close. They do have a slight gap within them. And I think it's the same for some of the other wall pieces as well. But this actual turret piece, for some reason, is slightly larger than its footprint, and it does actually clip in with no gap. So that's a little tip for you if you ever use it. I don't know, but there we go. The more you know, the better. So I'm going to place those down, and just to be safe, I'm going to come all the way out. This might be outside of the camera view, but I always like to do like a just in case, so I don't have to go through and edit it later. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. I'm just going to rotate that. We're going to find that single spot just behind the turret. There is one just about there. You can see that fits nicely. And then I'm going to rotate that twice. 1, 2, and then that's going to be its final resting place. And then I can bring these turrets over, put one there, duplicate that, and then grab another one as a just in case. Perfect. That already looks pretty good. That was I guess the composition that I really wanted to go for. I wanted to have that nice big castle in the middle and then those turrets coming out the side. So that's already in line with what I'm kind of like going for this week. But now I can kind of start to take a look with my character where the positioning should be. And honestly, that's already pretty good. So I think maybe I could go a tiny bit backwards. Yeah, honestly, I don't want the corners of those turrets creeping into the shot, but that's already around about what I'm looking for. All right, so moving on, I knew that I wanted some sort of moat. I didn't know how it was going to look, but I feel like every castle needs a moat. To me, it's not a castle if it doesn't have a moat. So I do have the river kit pieces here, just some small ones. And I thought I was going to do something horizontal in the background of the snap. But then I thought, wouldn't it be fun to do something kind of coming out down the sides of the path? So you're kind of walking over or alongside this river kit to get to the castle entrance. So I'm going to place these each side of this. And actually, looking at it now, I think, yeah, we can move it across by a half tile. And then I don't have to worry about the border because look, the bordered path, which is fantastic, it clips into stuff. It does it with rugs as well, but it clips into this river kit, which means it looks as though that's kind of the side of the water. So I'm just going to move all of those in by half a tile, and then we can just drop them all the way down, and it already looks like it's meant to be there, and it's kind of like a riverbank. So I am very much into this. And I suppose this isn't so much of a river, it's more of a stream or a brook, perhaps. But I'm just going to bring that as far down as I want for now. We might have to delete a couple at the end, but that looks pretty good to me already. And then I'm just going to finish the outsides of it with some foliage. So I'm going to do one there, and then I'm going to bring this one in for the gap space. And then we'll do the other one, and then I'll just kind of like repeat that all the way up. So alternating each time. Something kind of like that. And then that fits. I don't love the edging pieces of the river kit just because they feel a little bit more tropical than what I'm after. But I think it fits with this kind of like rustic old look that we're going for with this one. So we'll just roll with it. And then I'm going to do the other side and I'm going to alternate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the river small little piece in first, and then I'm going to bring in one of these other ones, and we'll make it this one first. And then I can just go through and I can duplicate once again. And then we've just kind of not got a repeating pattern. It kind of offsets itself, which, you know me, I like things to be not quite perfect. All right, we're hitting the mailbox there. So even though the mailbox is invisible, I am hitting the mailbox. So I might need to just use that piece just by there, like that. And we're not going to see that, I believe. So it will look okay. So we don't have to worry about that. And if needs be, I can put some reeds there. But I think we're going to get away with it just from the angle. So I think that looks good. That feels like some sort of moat going up towards this castle. Exactly what I was after. Let's take a look from my character's point of view in camera mode and see how that looks. Yeah, Perfect. Literally couldn't ask for more. Already looks incredible. Love it. Moving on, you'll notice that I do have these rock rugs out. So I do like these rock rugs. I just don't use them all that often because when you kind of put them together, I just feel like I can see that it's a square pattern. So I don't use them as often as I would like to. However, the nice thing about these rock rugs is that they actually sit underneath the water, which means that I can put them on the path just like that. And you'll see that it creates this double kind of like stone effect. So it's got the ancient's path underneath, and then we've got this rock rug on top. So it just makes it feel a little bit more medieval and a little bit more rugged. I really love that. So I'm actually going to move them out, and I'm going to alternate them. So I'm going to rotate, and then I'm going to bring them out by one tile each time. So it just mixes it up a little bit. So you'll see, actually, if I bring it across one more there, yeah, that feels a little bit better because there's no line going through the middle. So that makes me feel better anyway. So I'm just going to bring that down here, and we're just going to go ahead and we're going to kind of like duplicate this all the way down. So one there, one there. And it's just great because you can't see the rock through the water. So this looks cool. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It already looks really cool. And then I think we can get away with one more there and there. So you see, that just makes a difference because it doesn't have the substrate of the biome. There's a little bit of grass coming through, but not too much. And it just mixes those two kind of like paths together. And it just makes it feel, as I said, a little bit more medieval. Every time I jump into camera mode, I get more and more sparkles. So it is sparkle overload. But here's a better look at it. And like I said, you can't see those rocks going up the water, which works for me. I am very happy with that. So I guess we can move on to, well, everything else, because we've got the rest of the snap to do, but I'm thinking of having a dragon in each corner, just a little bit before the castle, because I know that dragons are often attacking castles, but How to Train Your Dragon changed my life. I love that movie. So I feel like dragons are friends. So these are actually dragons that kind of like guard the castle and keep it safe instead. Just like that. I wonder if this one is a little bit closer. I can't tell. I feel like the pyrotechnic is a little bit closer. The pyrotechnic, the actual flame coming out of its mouth. So I'm going to move this one back by one just to be safe. Now I think that matches, and they already look pretty cool. These are really, really cool items. I can't remember how we got them. I think that these were a quest item from Storybook Vale, but they're really, really cool. I love them. And then we've also got these suits of armor. Now, these are from the Haunted Floating Festival Island, which ends, I believe, on the 11th. So if you've not got these and you want to use them in your DreamSnap, you do still have time. So you can pick them up from one of the challenges on that floating island. Now I'm going to place them right next to each other, and then I'm going to delete every other one, just so they're not like, you know, they're not butting right up against each other. I think that works, and it gives them enough space to breathe. We can always tweak it later, but I'm going to just duplicate those and bring them to the other side. I think that's in line, but to make sure, I always like to use a path. So I know that it might eat into it, but I can always tell if they need to come across one, and that is actually correct. So I can just undo that, and it gets rid of the path, and there's nothing else I have to do. But I am going to rotate this guy, maybe just one, because I want their backs to be facing each other. So actually, I think I'm going to rotate these three as well, just by one tile. So their backs are facing each other, and you get less of that. I guess it's like a plague mask, I suppose. I think it's a plague mask. Justice for the plague mask, by the way. I want that to come to the premium shop, and it didn't this year, so I was very disappointed, but never mind. Maybe next year. And then we've got three on that side, so that does feel like guards in front of a castle. They feel like knights, and then I'm kind of like head knight. But the color palette works. They've got the red, and there's the red in this dragon. There's a little bit of warmth in the wood on the actual castle itself. So yeah, I think that all works together. The only anomaly is me in purple, but what can I say? I think that now would be a good time to bring the foliage in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in this purple landscaping item, because as we were just talking about, I'm sort of the only purple thing in this snap so far, and I don't want that to be the case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this in just like that, And that already looks really good. And I know that that's going to tie that color story together for me and keep me satisfied. So I'm going to place one on either side, and then I'm going to place one right in the middle as well. I don't know how much of this we're going to see through the middle, but I just want to make sure that if it is in the frame, you can see through the turret slightly, that it has some of those pink tones as well. And then I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to fill in the gaps with some of these big oak trees. I believe that these are oak trees. They've got a really nice tone of green to them. I think it looks really good. It matches the mossy castle. And yeah, look, already that looks so much better. Adding foliage is such a game changer. I say a game changer as if it's like this really big sort of feature, but just adding foliage in general completely transforms a build, and I absolutely love using it. And then I've also got this beach grass down here. I believe it's the beach grass. And actually with this beach grass, there's only one of them that will clip into stuff as far as I'm aware. So you do have to cycle through them. I think there's 3, there's at least 2, but only one of them actually clips into stuff, and it does clip into the water on this occasion as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring that down just to make this feel a little bit more rugged. I'm going to bring that down, and then I'm just going to mix it in with the knights and the water. So you can see here, they're kind of like, I don't know, they kind of like stood in it, I suppose. I think it looks okay. I'm gonna see what it looks like from my character's point of view in just a second. If I bring that down, we're about there. Another one across. That's kind of in the gap of those two. One more. Actually, it needs to be in the gap. So I'm gonna bring that in the gap, and then I'm gonna bring that just on the end. And I can bring it just on the end on that side. They all look pretty much in line to me, I would say. Maybe that one can go back 1. And there we go. The knights are just kind of like inside that grass. I do wish that maybe it was a little bit more squat, a little bit shorter, but it's definitely got the rugged vibe that I was going for, so I can't complain about that. The other thing that I do have down here is the pyrotechnic box. So this is from the Night Show Star Path. And what I was thinking, whether it'll look good or not, I was thinking of putting this in front of each of those shields to try and disguise it, but then we'll also have some flames. So, you know, we've got dragons in the shot. Why not have flames as well? I'm going to place those there. I think they're in line. I believe. Let's take a quick look. I think we might be 1 tile out. And we're 1 tile out. So I'm just going to move everything across just so it's exactly the same on both sides, which is important for a symmetrical snap. And then I can come out of furniture mode. We'll go into photo mode. I will test the effects with the visual effects button. And there we go. You can see that there are nice flames. So I don't know if I need 3. I'm thinking maybe 2. And I'm thinking of possibly moving them forward a little bit because they are disguised. I don't think they need to, like, I want them in the gaps of the knights rather than actually coming out of the knights. So I think maybe I could move them back by 2, and I'm going to get rid of the one on the end. We'll see how that looks. 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's try that. I do love the addition of this effects button. That somehow looks worse. So what I'm going to do, maybe I can fit them, because they're disguised by the grass, maybe I can fit them in between. Will that be better? Let me just do one side and see how that looks. Okay, a little bit better. A little bit better. I think maybe we can come back 1. I will have a little play around with that just to make sure that they do fit, but right now they look pretty good, although I'm getting swallowed up by the grass, so I'm just going to bring them out by 1. Bring them out by 1, and we will hope for the best. Hope for the best with that one, but I'm going to move on to something else just for the time being. In terms of camera placement, I am going to be a little bit zoomed in again. I already have the pose that I want to do in mind, so I'll get to that in just a sec. But what I was thinking of possibly having some ruins either side just to kind of like fill the bottom corners of the frame. So actually, let me move that one out of the way first and we'll take a look. We might need to jump in and out of camera mode a few times to see that one. There we go. Actually, just like that. So if I come right to the end and then I bring this forward so it zooms me in, think that we might need to actually bring that in. Maybe 2 more. Let's see how that looks. Can we go there? Okay, no, I need to be much more zoomed in than that. I want to be really close to the camera if I can help it. So I'm going to bring that in, and then we can do something like that. But I might actually need to get rid of this end piece of water on each side, like that. And then I think maybe 1, 2, if I delete that rock rug, 1, 2, 1, 2. And I might need to tweak those rock rugs. But there we go. The ruins are kind of like coming in at the bottom. That's what I was going for. That's kind of the vibe that I was after, just to add a little bit of interest to that bottom section of the snap. And then I can come a little bit closer to the camera, because I like my avatar. This might be a smidge too close, but I like my avatar's top of the head to be just beneath the top of the frame. Actually, yeah, looking at it, that's a little bit close, but something kind of like that. That's about the placement that I like the avatar to be when I zoom in. That might all change one day if we actually do get that zoom button that we saw in one of the developer update previews. I don't know whether that's ever going to materialize, but this will work for the time being. So I think actually maybe I can even go 1 back with those, just like that. And then what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to bring them. Actually, did the rock rug still fit, or could you see that it ends? No, you can see that it ends. So I need to bring it forward, definitely. So we'll go ahead and bring all of those rock rugs just a little bit closer to the camera. Well, as close as I can get, apparently, because you do run out of space just there. So I'm just going to do that. We'll just do that all the way up. I think there's only 5 in total, so it doesn't take too long. It would be nice to be able to hold kind of like shift or control down to be able to actually select multiple items. That, talking about game changers, that would be a game changer for me. There we go. All filled in. Camera placement just right. Already looking good. Already, as if we're not nearly done with the snap. I mean, look at it. It already looks great. I love it. But I've got this bookcase here. I can't remember what it's called. It's bookcase with bell or something like that, because there's a bell on it. And then there's another version that has greenery. But what I love to do with these, because they've got a nice wooden back to them that kind of like matches the warmth of all the other wood structures, sometimes I like to just put them directly behind windows, just kind of like that. And it blocks it off and it makes it look like it's always been blocked off. I don't know. I know it's not a drawbridge because there's a window, but you know what I mean, right? You know what I'm going for. I feel like sometimes castles have that sort of effect, that wood blocking up of stuff. So I'm talking about something that I have no idea what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to stop talking about that and leave my little wood structures alone. That seems to be a little bit too close, so I just need to move it back by like 2 tiles. And then I can bring that one in and block that up as well. And then you can see it just kind of like creates that silhouette effect. But it just makes, I don't know, it adds a little bit of contrast to the snap, I think. So I'm happy with how that looks. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one of these Vitalis lamps on the shelves. The windows. I'm going to make sure that it's in the middle. And then I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4 to rotate it. Dun dun. Because on the floating island, they obviously glow a lot stronger, which is what we're after. And we will do some more lighting in just a sec in amongst all of the grass. But I'm going to bring in these candelabras. I think maybe just having them kind of like right next to the window for the time being could work. I might need to tweak that. Maybe just one either side. That could look pretty nice. But you never really know until you get into camera mode. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. And then move it 1 across. Just so they kind of like flank those windows a little bit. And then I believe we're almost there. I was thinking of maybe bringing in some greenery just in case it clips into the corners. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to rotate it like that. And we're just going to have some of that on both sides. So I think looking at it, it's roughly about there. But that might be too much. that might be too much. Let's take a look. Jump into photo mode, and then we'll just adjust the time of day, sort of to like evening vibes, golden hour light. Yeah, so you can see here on this side, the lamp is visible, but I've blocked it with the tree on that side, and I've also blocked the candelabra. So I'm gonna have to just tweak that layout a little bit. This tree may end up not being suitable, but actually just having that little bit feels nice. So I wonder if I could get that little bit on this side as well. Maybe something like that. Maybe. And we'll just drop that in there. So behind my character, I am going to do some lighting as always. I'm going to bring in these display pillars from Scrooge. And I'm going to place 3 down, probably, yeah, just around there. And then I'm going to put these lamps on top of these as well. Having them raised off the ground slightly adds a wider glow, I guess. It's not so concentrated on the ground because these are so strongly lit. So it does add a nice little glow behind your character. And then I'm also going to bring in some of the yellow street lights. And I'm probably going to do 3 of those as well, just to give us some extra glow. I might need to adjust where they are. They might need to go a little bit further back. Although that looks pretty good placement-wise, I think. So let's take a look in camera mode when it does go to evening and see what that glow is like. Yeah, that glow actually is bang on. Exactly what I'm after. And the 2 side pieces look good again. Just need to rotate the camera just to fit those candelabras in. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to bring those candelabras, at least the ones on the outside, in by 1 tile, just so they're a little bit tighter to that window, so you've got that little gold glow. But otherwise, looking at it, everything else seems pretty good. I should probably bear in mind where those flames are going to be. So yeah, you can't actually see the candelabra on the inside, but I can bring those ones on the outside of the window in by like 2 tiles just to make sure that it's definitely in the frame. So I can go ahead and just delete that one for the time being, and I'm just going to go 1. Actually, no, I think 1 is technically 2 because it's diagonal. So I'm going to bring actually both of those. I'm going to bring the tree in, and I'm going to bring the candelabra in. So like that, and then just like that. And I think that should work. The one thing that is bugging me that I can see in the photo is I need another one of these rock rugs kind of like in here, because I can see this little bit at the bottom in the snap. But what I think I'm going to have to do is maybe move those out by 1 to be able to fit 1 in, just like that. If I have them any closer, you can't, because that castle wall can't sit on the rock rug. But actually, if I can just get it so I can at least have 1 in the middle, it just at least brings it forward a little bit. And there we go. You can see those candelabras, and we get the little edge of the tree as well. So it's looking good, besties. It's looking good. Let's jump out, and then we can have a look at what else I've put down. I think that's pretty much it. I do have these broken weapons. So these are from Storybook Vale. And I thought that they could be cute, just like kind of like next to my character, flanking the bottom of the snap, because there's a sword involved. Now, I don't have a sword. I've got a little one on my back, actually, but it's the Prince Philip one, and it's kind of dainty. I mean, Philip needs to upgrade his sword. But I thought just having that at the bottom, because it's the same color as the dragon and all of the other wood, it just ties that color story in, so it doesn't make it feel so disconnected or disjointed. So I already actually really love how that looks. I might tweak the placement a little bit. I might actually bring it... I was going to try it there, but I don't think it wants to be there. So I think having it right next to me is going to be too much, but I don't know. I could be surprised. Actually, no, that looks okay there, actually. I'm quite happy with that. So I think maybe I want to place another one down? I feel like that's too much, you know, like if I do that, it looks like I've just duplicated it, right? So let me see how it looks. I'm not confident that this is going to work, but yeah, I don't want it to feel, I don't know. I don't want it to feel too repetitious at the bottom. So I'm just going to stick with the 2 for now. And then, I don't know, maybe I can, if I move them out of frame, because they aren't furniture, so you can't pick them up and put them in your inventory. But I might put like maybe a piece of grass on either side, just so there's a little bit, although these are huge. So I don't know. I was thinking maybe a little bit of greenery. Oh, actually, that kind of worked. Yeah, that worked. So it's just the tips of those grass blades. That's all I was after, so I'm happy with that. Let me try and get a smaller side. Yeah, perfect. Oh my goodness, this has come together so quickly and so well. I am absolutely in love with it already. And I think that's about it on the furniture front. That's just about all I wanted. I was thinking of maybe putting something in the air. I don't think it needs it. However, most of the snaps that come in first, second, and third do have fireflies, but like I said at the top of the video, I like making it simple sometimes and just seeing how simple and pared back I can make it, because there's really not that many items in this right now. And I think it still looks really full and lush and good, if I do say so myself. So let's go on to actually popping some of those lamps back in. I don't know whether to move these out by one so the grass is only ever so slightly creeping over the edge of the water. I think that feels less, not invasive. Well, invasive could work, but less claustrophobic, I suppose. I don't know. Let's see how that fits. I mean, it's negligible, right? But you can still tell it's water, so I'm happy with that fact. But I think what I'll do is leave it like that. I think that's the best course of action. It is bugging me that I've got a duplicate there, so I'm just going to bring everything down. I know, it's terrible. Honestly, it afflicts me too, but I need it to look good, and I need it to look how I want it to look. I don't know whether to put something maybe by the entrance. I was thinking actually a banner. I didn't place a banner down, but that could be quite cool. I don't know if it would fit. There's a very limited amount of space, especially because of that mailbox. And actually, there's a limited amount of space anyway. So I don't think that I can fit a banner in here. I can fit one there, but I'm not going to be able to fit it there, which is a pain. That is a pain, because actually a banner would look pretty cool. Unless I just get rid of that last piece of water, because you can't see it anyway. So if I do that, I might, not the 70th, that's not going to fit. The Dunbrock one I can fit in. Does the color scheme work? Or should I go with the Parks one? Because the Parks banner does have some of the red in it. I don't know. Let me see. Let's see how that looks against my character. Oh, you can't see it. I'm blocking it. My big old body and my big old back is blocking it, but all right then. In that case, I wonder if maybe I could fit one of the banners on the sides. This is just me kind of like spitballing here. I was about to type spanner. That's exactly how I feel right now. What a spanner. But I've got the fairy cake celebration one. I don't know. This one, this color scheme does feel like it fits the best, but I cannot fit this banner in any of these gaps to save my life. So I think maybe the Dunbrock one, it could. No, that feels like too much, right? That feels like too much, especially when I've got the flames going. But maybe that will peek out the top of the flames. So I'm going to try it. Maybe that's a little bit too close. I think I just need to come across one tile with that to about there. And then that seems to match on both sides. Just like that. All right, let me put the flames on and we'll see if that actually ends up looking good or if it's too much. I think it actually might get covered. It does get covered. Okay. That was all a wasted effort, and that's okay. Sometimes you do things and it doesn't work out, but I like how this looks, regardless of that. I am going to delete those because they are going to bug me if I know that they're there and I don't need them. And then I think the last thing that's kind of catching my eye is maybe the fact that there's like some dead space, possibly here and here. I don't know what to put in there. I don't think a flower bush is really going to go down that well. But I do wish there was something teeny tiny. Like, I wish we had these Storybook Veil trees in green as well, just in green, because you could use like something like the Ever After bush just like that. But that introduces another color, and I'm not about that life right now. The orange doesn't really match either. If it was red, it would be better, but I'm not loving that flower bush. It doesn't feel appropriate for what we're trying to do. But I'll place it down. We'll check it out just in case. And we'll see how that looks. Actually, I don't actually mind it. I know it's only like creeping in on the edges, but it kind of like ties that. It kind of ties that together. However, I just had a thought. It would be nice to use the butterfly bushes, maybe, and bring in some of that purple, because we've only got purple in me and the kind of like lilac trees at the top. So I feel like, where are they? The butterfly bushes or the butterfly flowers have that same pink tone. So if I use these, maybe just scattered, it can capture some of that vibe. So I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side, just like kind of like that, and then one there. Let's see how that looks, because that might bring in some of that color story down towards the bottom, and it does. That's exactly what it needed. It just needed that little bit of like oomph from that color to tie it all together. Perfect. Love how that looks. And then finally, let's grab some of these lamps and we'll try and illuminate these knights somehow. So I'm thinking maybe one under each shield. That could be pretty cool. So it's like kind of next to his shoe. And then I'll do exactly the same thing on the other side. So where was it? Right under his shield, next to his shoe, just like that. Maybe we could do one. I was going to say under the dragon. Oh, it does fit under the dragon. So maybe like one between the dragon's legs. Something kind of like that. And then I could also bring another one of these beach grass in to help disguise those pyro boxes. Just kind of like that. Just so they're not totally obvious. I do wish that those grasses had a little bit more texture to them, because they are just completely flat and a solid color. But on a side where it has shadows, it's not too bad. It's just the other side that doesn't look great. So actually, I think that might be it in terms of composition. Let me just check that in evening mode to make sure the lighting looks good. And it does. So the lighting is actually affected by your real physical clock as well, as the lighting gets towards the hour change. So in that 15-minute gap between 45 or 1:45 and the o'clock, the lighting does change. And then when it hits the o'clock, it kind of like reverts again. It's hard for me to explain. The only way I can kind of like tell you to really explore it is to try it yourself and see what it does. It might just be a specific kind of like platform thing, but I know that my lighting changes in those last 15 minutes, and sometimes it's a lot richer, but sometimes it's a lot darker as well. So sometimes it does lose some of that brightness. That is always worth bearing in mind. But for now, I think that this is really on the right track. It looks really good. I'm happy with how it looks. If I go there, you can see that I really need that nighttime mode, or actually the evening time mode, for those lights to switch on. And it does bring a lot of contrast in, but we can change that easily within the settings now, because we do have all of those settings available. And I'm just taking a look just to make sure that I've not missed anything out. I should probably delete them as I go to know that they've been used. And it looks like I'm going to delete everything. So, oh, well, keep putting stuff down apparently, but I think we're just about ready to set up the final shot. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. All right, so here I am in photo mode, just about ready to go. The one pose that I did want to use, since it is pretty new, is this selfie mode pose. And not because it's taking a selfie, it's because this kind of gives Arnie pose, like bodybuilder Arnie, like, you know, like that. And I wanted this to be very much like, don't come in, I'm here guarding the castle. So you can't see the phone in this specific shot, which is what I like. I think we need to rotate a little bit, kind of to about there. So it might mean that I need to come a little bit closer to the camera but that's okay. And then what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to enter selfie mode. We're going to rotate to the right only ever so slightly, just so I'm off center. That might even be too much. And then I'm going to see how that looks. Okay, so I can still see the phone, which is fine. All that tells me is that I need to come a little bit closer to the camera. And I think maybe I rotated just a little bit too much. So I'm just going to sneak towards the camera again. Selfie mode, rotate, but less, and then go into second camera mode. And then we can hit that pose again and see how that looks. There we go. So now the phone is out of view. It looks like I'm flexing. Looks like I'm flexing. Looks like I'm saying, who's the boss? It's me. I'm the boss. It's me. And I think that is exactly the vibe that I'm going for. So I'm taking a quick look. I like to just hit my composition in the actual camera mode. And then I just like to look at it and I like to scan the whole thing and be like, yeah, I did the thing. That looks good. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to hit it up into kind of evening mode. So all of those lights come on. Obviously, then it goes a little bit dark. But what we can do pretty easily now is change the vignette on that. Brightens up the sides if you change it to just 1%. Then I'm also going to bring up my character lighting. Not too far this time because I don't want it to look too overwhelming. Like that's way too much. But I think maybe about 35% would work. And I'm going to change that light bloom to 1 just so it takes that shine off of everything. I don't know why I like it. I just like everything looking a little bit more crisp. And then, of course, we need to change the aperture and the focus to 1%, although it's just undone that vignette. But you can easily change that by going back to 0%. And then there we go. That's looking so good. That's looking so good. I think that's about it this week. Maybe I might just bump the saturation up. Actually, I might do it by 2. I like it looking colorful. I'm going to do it by 2. Do I need to? No, I'm gonna do it by 2. Why not? Why not? And then I always like to bring the highlights up by 0.1 or 0.2 as well, just to really emphasize that brightness. I never really take them down because you start to end up like going a little bit dark. But 1, 2. Oh, it's so bright. It's so bright and so good. This looks so good. This looks so good. And then I think unless there's anything else I want, I don't want to play with rotation or anything like that this time around. Although I don't know, having it rotate 1, 2, maybe like by 8 is like pretty cool, but I don't think it needs it. I'm going to stick with that. You can't see the phone anyway. And then of course we've got to turn on the effects, but I'm just looking at everything else. I think I'm good. Unless I just change the contrast a little bit. Maybe just bring it up to about 10%. I'm going to pause my camera. Actually, I'm going to head to sunshine mode just so it doesn't start raining. I'm going to pause my avatar. I'm going to turn off everything else. I know that there's nothing on this floating island, but I just like to be safe. I do have my little nightly dragon running around, but I don't actually need him for this snap, and I do feel quite guilty about that, but when it looks this good and I can't fit him in, you just gotta go with it. So we're gonna turn those on just like that. And that is the snap finished. All right, gang, that is it for this video. I do hope that you enjoyed that build. I had a lot of fun with this theme. I think it's something a little bit different, a nice change of pace from those spooky snaps that we've been getting. So it's nice to get our teeth into something a little bit different. Let me know down in the comments below what you're doing this week. Are you doing the same sort of vibe, or are you going for something entirely different and unique? Who knows? There's lots of unique snaps out there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. Maybe subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for more DreamSnap Diaries and a whole bunch of other Disney Dreamlight Valley content. But with all of that being said, I am going to leave it there for today. So I will catch you in the next one, and I will, of course, see you in the valley.